Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video, we're going to be talking about aggregation in MongoDB, and a lot of persons run away from aggregation, trust me. And I can understand why, a lot of persons try to run away from aggregation because, trust me, if you are dealing with like very complex data, you're going to have to perform a lot of aggregations where you have to project, you have to find, you have to match. But what exactly is aggregation? Let's start from that. It's a process or a kind of, method whereby you deal with complex data in a MongoDB database. Now, aggregation we're talking about today is specifically for MongoDB, so which means MongoDB aggregation. And today's tutorial is going to be, explaining that concept and giving like an example, like a real life example of how to go about aggregation. I wrote an article about that, I think few months ago, I think over 5 months now, and the article has been blowing up. Trust me, because a lot of persons find it very useful. And I'm going to like be replicating that same article examples in form of a video just to back that up so that we can have a better understanding. So we've said a lot. I think we should go straight into the video.
Yeah, so still on the aggregation that we're explaining, the first thing that I want you guys to understand here is that when you deal with aggregation, it's basically, you dealing with complex queries. And take aggregation for something similar to inner joins, outer joins, left inner join, all of those stuffs that SQL database, uses to make queries and get data from different tables and all of that. But because we all know that, MongoDB is not a relational database. It's a non-relational database, so which means it doesn't have a structured attributes, tables, column layout, and that's the reason why we cannot use the join statement. But in that case, what is the replica or what is the alternative to the join? And that's where the aggregate functions come in. Now, in aggregate, there are a lot of things that you need to understand. The first thing is you can actually use aggregate to get data from several collections. You can combine 2 3 different tables together and get data from it. Now I'm going to show you an example. If you look at we're going to be using the MongoDB Playground, which is like an online editor or an online compiler that allows you to write MongoDB codes and queries and also get the results. So we don't have to start setting up like a terminal on our local computer or a database. We're just going to use this for the sake of the explanation. Now, if you look at the database, you would see I have 2 tables. The first one is the companies table, which has several information inside of it. I've got the ID of the company, the name of the company, the industry which the company belongs to, and the location. And if you look at the products, which are the products of each of these companies, I've got the ID of the product, the company ID, which is a foreign key of the companies. So which means whatever ID we have in the company ID has to tally with one or more company value. And you can see that here, that the company ID of 1 signifies the company of ID 1, which is company A. Same thing applicable here. We've also got company ID of 2, we've got company ID of 3, company ID of 4. So this is basically companies and their products. Now that's just the kind of database we're going to be dealing with. Now the first syntax in the aggregation that we're going to be having is the match. And the match basically helps us to find and filter informations that are basically needed. That means information that matches the exact query is what we need from this set of database database result or database data that we have. Now, how do we use the find statement? I'm going to disable this so that we don't have the grammarly issue. Now the first thing I want to do here is I'm going to go db dot, the name of the database is companies, so I'm going to go db dot companies dot aggregate. Now inside of here, the first thing I want to do is I want to call the match function of the aggregate. So if I'm calling the match, now I want to match where the industry is healthcare. Let me use where the industry is healthcare. Now, if we run this, we're getting a result, and you can see that the result we're getting has ID, which of 3, also has the industry, which is the healthcare, has the location, which is Chicago, and has the name. So which means we've been able to get data that has industry as healthcare. So if, for example, we had two industries that no sorry two companies that got industry of healthcare, it means we're going to be having two data returned. Now let's look at the technology as an example. If I change this from healthcare to technology, we should be having two results returned for us, because we've got two results or two data that has its industry as technology. Now you can see in the results we've got two results for this particular query. Now, why do you need to use the match function? The reason why you can use the match function is basically because you decide to work with only data that is related to what you need. So you don't need to start doing the MongoDB whatever dot find one where this is, all of those kind of stuff. Once you use the match syntax, it's quickly and very straightforward for you to just get the exact data which you're looking out for. Now, one more operation in aggregate that we're going to be looking at today is the project operation. Now, the project I mean is something like this. We mean project. Now, what do we mean by the project operation, or what does the project operation implies? It's basically an operation that is used to filter out fields that are needed after using the match syntax to filter data. Now, what do we mean by that? You can see that we've used the match operation or the match query or whatever it is you want to call it to filter out informations that has an industry of technology. Now it has given us the ID, it has given us the industry, the location, and the name. But in the case of your business logic or your application logic, you actually might not need the industry, you might not need the location. What you need might just be the name. Now, match cannot give you that because match has to return all the attributes that exist in that data or in that table or in that collection. Now, but with the help of project, you can be able to go one more step forward to only get columns or attributes that you want to make use of. Now, how do we play around the match and the project function or operation together? All we have to do is just introduce a new column, curly braces rather, and we're going to call the project. Now, what we want to project here is we just need the industry and the name. We need just the industry and the name. Now we're going to run this, and now you can see we're getting industry, we're getting name, and you can find out that we don't have location as part of the data that is returned. And why is that so? Or why is it that we don't have location? It's pretty straightforward. I told you earlier, I said when you're dealing with projects, it's basically you having to get only attributes or columns or data that you want to make use of. And why are we using one here instead of writing something? What the one there signifies is trying to tell you that we need this exact industry column or attributes for the data that was returned. Now, you might be surprised, okay, yes, we only specified industry and name. We did not specify ID, but how come the ID, was returned? Now you can tell that the ID is a unique property that is given to you by MongoDB itself, and that's the reason why you would always have the ID returned within your data. So that's how to make use of the project. Now, we've got other couples of operations that are, more advanced, but I don't want to make this particular first tutorial or first video on MongoDB aggregation, and I don't want to make it too advanced. I just want to cover the basics, and we've covered match, we've covered project. We're going to cover group. Let's see how we can make use of the group. We've got other ones like we've got the sort operation, we've got the lookup, we've got the lookup, we've got the sort, we've got the unwind. There are a lot of them, but like I said, I don't want to make this thing too complex. So I'm just going to cover the match, the project, and the group. And I'm going to make sure I do one more video that covers the advanced part so that we don't lose track or make the video too boring, or too long. I just want to make you guys get every details of everything that's been explained here. Now, the next one we're going to be using here is the group operation. Now, before we go into an example using the group operation, what is the group operation, or how can we use the group operation? Now, the first thing you need to know is the group operation allows you to perform series of operations together, like for example getting the sum of data, getting the average of a data set, getting the minimum value, the maximum value, a lot of stuff like that. Now, if we want to, like for example, get the sum of the group data, we can be able to use the group operation to do that. Now, how do we implement something of that such? Now, one thing you should know is when you're dealing with the group, it's not necessary or compulsory that you make use of the match and the project. It's not compulsory when you're dealing with a group. You can always use the group directly. Now, one thing I'm going to be doing here, I'm going to comment this out. Okay, I can't use the comments here, so I'm just going to erase this. And I'm going to show you an example of how we can use the group. We're still going to use the aggregate. Now, one thing you should see here is we're always doing db.companies.aggregate. The reason we're doing this is because the name of our database signifies companies, and companies happens to be, an object property of the DB. And we're trying to use the aggregate function, which is an inbuilt function inside of the database. Now, similar approach, we're just going to have it as group. And the first thing I want to do here is I want to group using the ID as industry. Then the next thing would be total docs, or let's just say total value. Let me just call it total docs. And here I'm going to say sum as 1. Now, let's run this and see what it gives us. Now, you can see that we're getting this. So instead of total docs, let me just call this total value. Now, looking at the result, what can you tell is happening here? We basically just did a summation of all the companies or all the values for each industry. That is exactly what we just did right now. We calculated the total number of values for each industry, and you can tell that we had to use ID as the industry syntax here, because that is exactly what we want our ID to be. We don't want our ID to be 1 or 2 or 3, and you can see for yourself that the ID here says technology, healthcare, finance, whatever it is, and that's the way we want it. Now, the total value of each of this industry is what is returned to us. And as you can see from the data, our data is not much. We can easily just do a filter with our eyes, and we can see that for technology, we've got two companies, which makes it the total value of 2. For healthcare, we've got one company, which makes it a total value of 1. And for finance, we've got one company. Now, if for example we decide to add, let's say, 2 more datas here, and call these this is an ID of 5, call this company E, and let's just call this entertainment, and this is in Spain, and add one more value or one more data, which is also going to be entertainment 2, and this is company F, and I'm also going to have this as entertainment, and this is just going to be Croatia. Hope I got that spelling correctly. Now, if you run this query, you see that we now have entertainment as 2. So what exactly can you deduce from this particular function or from this particular query? You can see that it's helping us calculate the total number of industry values that we've got. Now, you cannot only, or you're not allowed to only use industry here. whatever thing you're trying to target is what you use as the ID here. Now, like I said, the main aim of this video is to give you an introductory explanation on how to use the MongoDB aggregation basic syntax, like the match, the project, the group. Now, like I told you, we've got other advanced ones like unwind, lookup, all of them like that. And I'm going to be covering that also. So if you want me to cover that part of the video, let me see the comments, in the comment section. If we get like a lot of comments, trust me, we're going to cover that part of the video because it's required for you guys to understand that. But I think this brings us to the end of this particular video. If you like the video, give a thumbs up, subscribe so that you could get other videos. We are releasing videos like on a weekly basis, and the reason is to keep you guys updated on several stuffs which you can use to ease your software development journey. So give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share among other software engineers or developers or web developers you have out there, and let them also subscribe and get the best out of the little knowledge which we're dishing out. That brings us to the end of this video, and I'll see you in the next video.